Yeah. It, do you think counties would get a hold of MAC if they were going to attempt to take the state to court?
Yes. I think that'd be one of the first things they do is talk to Mac.
Right.
So if you talk to Mac, I've been reading their website, looking for anything on this. Because they have, I'm sure you get them too, maybe it's townships, and then Q&As, they
Yes,
have got this.
the MTA sends that stuff to me.
Yeah, so, I'm like, why I figured this would be a subject somebody would have talked about.
I didn't see anything on there, did you? On the MTA.
Because it's a state law, so it's voted on state law. It's not to say it couldn't be deemed unconstitutional, but by the same token.
And they keep saying that we're done things unconstitutional. I don't like the gun law she's put in. But I don't know if it's unconstitutional because they didn't wipe out the Second Amendment. You can still own them. You just have to go through certain things. So I don't think that anybody can win in court, especially with the Michigan Supreme Court being liberal. What's it? Yeah.
We have the right to pay the
Now, if they come to the house and say we want their guns, I'd say that's against the Second Amendment.
Yeah, the right to hasn't specified.
But they don't seem to get to it. The only person that can win is
COA. Yeah, they're gonna move into phase 2, which might be jumping.
Good morning and welcome to the Berry County Committee of the Whole meeting for February 20th, 2024. If you would please stand for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Testing. Yes, Mike? It's on. Good morning.
Was on.
Was on?
It was for a second.
Mind up.
Test, test, test. Okay, we've got some volume. Okay. Good morning. We will start out with reports from state and county officials.
Gotta do the roll. Roll call.
That's for BOC.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're here.
Unless you have rolls.
No.
Breakfast
rolls. No rolls.
Pizza rolls.
Good morning, everybody.
Excuse me.
Wow. Not much to report. We had another set of uniforms come in again, and we had to send a bunch of those back too. So we're getting there with the uniforms. It was kind of funny because you'd put on the long sleeve shirt and it fit down here. The minute you raise your arm up a little bit, it slid way up your arm. So we sent those back. I think I told you about the corrections uniforms where they misspelled Berry, right?
Yeah.
They put B-E-R-R-Y, yeah. So that's coming along. Next week, hopefully I'll be bringing in a new deputy and swearing up here in front of you guys again. So we had a nice win. We actually took one from a big agency, and he wanted to come up here and work here in Berry County. So I'll introduce him next week.
Okay. Question, last week we talked about the new gun laws that took effect.
Oh, I left them right on my desk. I forgot, I was going to hand them out to you. The state,
If you have a printout or
Yes.
something, that would be great to have.
let me scan it, just email it to you.
Yeah.
That work for everybody? Okay, I'll do that.
It'd be good to have an explanation and real information on that, so.
It's still muddy waters. We don't, even the Attorney General's office is kind of scratching their head a little bit on it too, so.
Okay. All right, I appreciate it. Thank you. Additional reports from state and county officials.
Good morning.
Morning, Stephanie.
Stephanie Lehman, Berry County 911, here to invite all of you to our open house tonight at the Dispatch Center from 5 p.m. until 7 p.m. So it's an opportunity, it's open to the public to learn a little bit about what we do at 911 and an opportunity to see the 911 team and all of the technology that we utilize here in Berry County to deliver 911 service come together. So every couple of years we do that, typically when we're up for millage renewal. So it would be a great opportunity for you to see our 911 center if you haven't yet. I was asked to provide some analytical data so that the Board of Commission is aware of, what I was asked was how much utilization are we seeing here in Berry County? How much are our residents using 911 services? So in December of 2023, at the end of the year, first week of January, we calculate all of our data for the year. We dispatched a total of 55,303 incidents, an increase of 5.54% from 2022. In a 10-year comparison, so at the end of 2013, we had dispatched 37,460 complaints. So a difference of over 18,000 complaints in 10 years. For a 5-year comparison, at the end of 2018, we had dispatched 48,446 complaints. So we are dispatching roughly 1,486 more complaints per month than we were 10 years ago, and we are dispatching roughly 572 more complaints monthly than we were 5 years ago. I am presently working with less staff now than we were 10 years ago. So one question, 2 questions that I've received a lot about the millage language is, what are we seeking the Headley override for? Because we're seeking a renewal. Every year since 1992, Central Dispatch has been on the ballot for millage renewal, which is our how we operate. It's our operating millage. That language has not changed except the addition of the Headley override. So what we are able to levy up to 1 full mil minus the Headley. So right now that amount is .9416. I'm sorry, I'm getting over a cold, so I'm getting a little bit winded. .9416. So the difference between that .9416 to bring that up to the 1 mil is what we are presently seeking. That's the Headley override. I think there's a little bit of confusion in the community that we are looking to seek an additional millage, or we are looking to, it's going to be an increase that's several $100s. If you have a property in Berry County where your assessed property value is about $130,000 or $135,000, which is the average for Berry County, looping feedback, you're looking at an increase of $5 or $6. So it's a matter of dollars depending upon what your property value is. So I wanted to clear that up for your board today. We are not seeking to double the millage, and we're not seeking for what would be considered a true or a regular increase. We are seeking a renewal with a Headley override to get us back up to the original amount that was approved for 911 to operate on in 1992. So 32 years we've been operating on that. Are there any questions for me about that? No?
Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So .94 mils is approximately 9.4% of the full mill. How long has that been Headley overriding down to that point?
So I can only provide you data as long as I've been the director for the last 6 years. And so we have been on that down slope for the entire time I've been the director. The last time we saw it renewal in 2020, and I'm sorry, Commissioner Colton, I don't have it in front of me, I believe it was .9814, so a significant change from 2020 to now. Countywide, if everyone pays their taxes and we collected every penny that we asked for, it would only generate an additional funding of $164,860. Countywide, less than $200,000. That amount of money will fund 2 additional dispatch positions. The challenge for me is finding them, finding the dispatchers. And also, in 2024, as you are well aware here, everything is driven by technology, everything. So the days of picking up a handset or picking up a radio to talk, those days are gone. They've been gone in my tenure, and that continues to change. The industry standards continue to change, and we have to continue to purchase new technology and implement new technology to continue to meet the change. In 2016, my predecessor migrated us to a system where our 911 delivery, our calls were delivered on a fiber optic system instead of copper wired trunks in the ground. And the reason that we did that was to meet consumer demand. You could walk through Target, Google Maps knew where you were, they could tell from GPS data, mostly from a cellular device that you were carrying, but 911 didn't. 911 didn't have access to that data. So in 2016, we started that process. It was a very lengthy process for 911. As most of you are aware, fiber is kind of a scarcity here in Berry County. So we had to have the fiber put in out at the dispatch center. It took 2 years for that to happen. We have to have 2 paths, because you have to have your main path and you have to have a default path or backup path. And then you have to cut over all of your carriers based by exchange. And so we have 517, 616, and 269 area codes in Berry County. So that makes it a little bit more challenging for us. But the ability to be on fiber optics allows us to have the text messaging. It allows us to have the text platform. We are vastly approaching an arena where you will be able to send video and photographs, an MMS message or a multimedia message to your 911 center. You can technically send us a photo right now, but it comes in an email attachment. It doesn't populate right for the dispatchers to see. And without that technology, we wouldn't be able to meet the current demand, the current need. Every county and every service district except there's one county that's not, and the 4 Wayne County service districts have now opted into the state's EZNet or Emergency Service Network for 911 call delivery. We were very early adopters of that. In the southwest side of Michigan, it was Berry County and Calhoun County. We were the first 2 to go that route, and the reason that we went that route is that the phone system that we were operating on at the time was at its end of life. It was no longer going to be supported and maintained. Research and development had been completed, and my predecessor knew that we need to start moving forward on this. And so it's opened up a lot for us, but it's expensive, it's costly. And so, I don't know if that answered your question very well, Commissioner.
Oh, you answered it. The first 30 seconds.
I can talk about this all day long, as most of you are aware. I think it's really important to know that 911 touches everything, so all facets of public safety in a variety of public works. We're pushing alerts for the road commission. We do dispatching for them, for MDOT. If there's a water main break in the city of Hastings, in the village of Freeport, we access the village of Nashville, all of those people after hours. We're responsible for all the infrastructure, so you've heard me come and talk to you about towers. We are in the process of building 2, and the limited number of infrastructure we have here in Berry County. In my tenure, I would like to change that, but it's very expensive. So the 2 towers we're building right now, $5.8 million, solely grant funded. The only tower that Berry County owns is the tower out at Dispatch. It's original to the building. It's 32 years old. And so our community's been very fortunate that we've been able to get by co-locating on other companies' infrastructure, which is also very costly. So right now we have police on one system, and then we have fire and EMS on another system. And with the addition of these 2 new towers, about 50% of our fire departments and probably all of our EMS agencies are going to migrate to 700 and 800 megahertz, which is these 2 towers that we're building. It provides a safer, more secure platform. Our number 1 job at Dispatch is to serve you, right, and the visitors of Berry County. Make sure that you have the most efficient and effective access to 911 services. But in addition to that, our most important job is to provide safety to our partner agencies that are physically responding, police, fire, and EMS. And unfortunately, we are living in a world that sometimes just isn't kind. And I was preparing to come to speak to you this morning. I looked up some statistical data. In the last 3 days in the United States, 12 police officers have been attacked or ambushed while they were on duty. Some of those were fatalities. And one firefighter, and that firefighter was a fatality. And so that's a job that we take very seriously out at Central Dispatch. We, after you've been a dispatcher for a while, all of our partners in public safety, you kind of have an ownership for them. They become yours. And it's important that we provide the best equipment that we can, not only to do our jobs accurately, but to make sure that everybody goes home safe at the end of the day. And in order for me to do that, I've got to find the money. I've got to find the money to build about 4 more towers. So I don't have a funding mechanism for that yet. And so we kind of are in this period of transition where once the towers are standing, about 50% of our fire departments are going to transition to 800 megahertz, which will provide them a better platform and better interoperability with law enforcement. But it's expensive. It's expensive for them as well. Communities that have done a infrastructure build-out where they've built all their own towers and then they've integrated into the state's radio system, you have to establish a talk group for every agency. It's about $1,500 a talk group. It requires different pagers. It requires different portable radios and different mobile radios. Mobiles are the radios that are hardwired into an ambulance, a fire truck, or a police car. In most communities, 911, when they've made the transition from VHF or UHF solely to 700 or 800 megahertz, they've been able to provide that information to ease that burden, most specifically for our fire agencies, because they are all a combination of paid on call or volunteer. Unfortunately, I don't have the money here to do that in Berry County. I would if I could, but we don't have the resources for it. The operating millage is just enough for us to operate with the labor shortage and the increase in salaries and benefits that we've seen. Nobody wants to talk about COVID, right? But that changed everybody's life. Way back in the day when I started a long time ago, which my team hates to hear me say, we used to do this. When we had dispatchers, we started paying them $13 and change an hour. And unfortunately, that's just not applicable today in today's life. So I think our starting wage is $21 and some change an hour. And you could say, wow, that's a great starting wage. And it's a fair starting wage. It's about an average starting wage. If you think of Berry County as a bullseye and you look at our surrounding counties, we're obviously on the low end. I can't keep up with Kalamazoo and Kent and even Calhoun counties and Eaton counties. And sometimes it's not a very stressful environment, and sometimes it's a very stressful environment, and no amount of money that we pay these people is enough to be on the other end of something that they can't hear, walking people through the worst times of their lives. And so that's my spiel. That's what I'm here to talk about today. If you are available tonight, I would love the opportunity to show you the 911 center, what it looks like when we receive a 911 call, how we process that, and the technologies that we have in place. Everybody is welcome from 5 p.m. until 7 p.m. I do have some fact sheets here about what exactly the millage supports. But real quick before I go back to, I got sidetracked, 911 touches everything, and I talked about the infrastructure. We also provide the mobile data computer network for all of law enforcement except for the state police. There's always an exception to the rule. So we provide the computers and the broadband connectivity for all of the Berry County housed law enforcement agencies. Berry County Sheriff's Office, Hastings Police Department, Woodland Township, Prairieville Township, Nashville, and Berry Township. And as the technology continues to change, that's become harder for us to be able to fund and continue to provide. But that gives law enforcement the ability to be able to see the 911 information live as it's coming into dispatch. They have what's called mobile CAD, so they can see what's happening to help them be better prepared to respond and for us to create more efficiency in dispatching dependent upon an officer's location. About 60% of the work that we do here in Berry County at the 911 center is related to law enforcement. So 60% related to law enforcement, 20% related to EMS, between 4 and 5% are solely fire calls, and then the rest is just general assistance or, public works, power outages, those types of things, road closures.
Fantastic. Questions from commissioners?
I really appreciate you coming today to clarify this, because I think there has been some misperceptions out there about that this is going to be a major tax increase with first from the ballot language. And so if they realize that they already have been paying this, it'll just be a slight increase of a few dollars, basically.
Correct.
Commissioner Campbell?
Not any particular questions, but I appreciate leadership that's willing to get up there and talk about their area of expertise, because that just shows that we got the right person there with a lot of dedication. I appreciate that.
Commissioner Hatfield? I'm good. Commissioner Dalton, any more questions? Commissioner Getty?
I'm good.
Commissioner Smelter?
I'm good, thank you.
I would just say that we appreciate what you're doing out there. I know that being my 8th or 9th year, I know we've spent a lot of money on technology. I know you have a lot more money to spend on technology coming up, some of the things we talked about. But if you want to end with a story or a case study, I thought it was interesting. We had a conversation a few weeks ago about Kent County's new technology that they got versus Berry County and how far behind the perception was. Would you care to address that?
I'm going to respectfully request that Jason does not print this. I maintain what I believe to be a really great relationship with my colleagues. Is that better? With my colleagues at Kent County, and so we have a lot of call transferring that happens specifically at M37 and 108. And we've helped each other out with interview panels and stuff for promotional process, so I would like to keep that intact. But I did last year have a member of the local media reach out to me to say, hey, Stephanie, I live in Kent County, and they'd had a rather large media campaign in Kent County because they rolled out text to 911. And so they're really excited about it. The citizens in Kent County can now text 911. And I was just wondering if you have thought about that, if you've researched it, or when you think we might be able to get some technology like that here in Berry County. Berry County 911 rolled out text to 911 in 2015. We updated our platform to provide some translation services. We do have a significant amount of our population that their primary language is Spanish. And so that helps us communicate with them a little bit better if they contact us. We also have a language line service that we use, but text is faster. So we initially rolled that technology out in 2015, and then once we went live on fiber in 2018, we upgraded to a better texting platform. Again, that fiber makes that possible. Without that, we wouldn't be able to do that. So we've had that service, this year will be 9 years.
Absolutely. So we are ahead of the curve in some areas, but we appreciate the leadership and the vision that you've brought and continue to have. And we know it's been a challenge finding good people, especially when they're working 24/7 out there. So we appreciate all you do. So good luck, and hopefully you'll get a good crowd tonight. So
Thank you.
thank you. State and county officials, I don't see any additional limited public comment at this time. Any member of the public wishing to address the board may do so for up to 3 minutes.
Good morning, John Lake, Irving Township. I wanted to thank Commissioner Tunison, Commissioner Smelker, and Commissioner Colton for being very supportive with regards to our endeavors with the two-way amendment going around. Right now, we have 7 townships that have passed that. We have 4 that we're waiting to hear back from, and 3 that I yet to go to. So it's a pretty good response right now. But that's not actually what I wanted to talk a lot about. Shifting topics here. This weekend we had early voting, and I talked to Cindy just briefly, but it was reported after the polls closed on Sunday, there was approximately 11,000 voters throughout the state of Michigan. Given that there's 4,700 precincts in Michigan, right? And we realize that not all precincts, some of them are doubled up, but I don't have that number. So that breaks down to 5,500 voters Saturday and Sunday with 4,700 precincts. That works out to 1.17 voter per precinct. Now, each precinct's required to have at least 2 poll workers, one a Republican, one a Democrat. And I don't know what the average cost is. I know our township pays $20, so I use $20, and I use an average of 3 poll workers because that makes more sense. That's all said and done, that works out to $2,256,000 a day. You times that by the 9, that works out to just over $20 million. But going back to the weekend, at the $2,256,000, you divide that by 5,500 voters, that works out to $410 per vote. That's not to mention the equipment that each township was required to buy for this special election. So you want to talking about an egregious waste of our tax dollars. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. This is not money well spent. So I don't know what our clerk can do, but I would hope from all you and from our clerk that a scathing report is submitted to our, the Board of Electors and the Secretary of State regarding the waste of our tax dollars. And I don't know going forward, right, if in August, because we've got 2 more of these long elections coming forth. So we're over $60 million just in money spent to people funding these things. So that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Additional public comment?
Hello, my name is Emily Reed. I'm the Chief Deputy Register of Deeds downstairs, and I'm here to promote our property fraud alert. It's a free service that our office offers in conjunction with our software that can alert you if anything is recorded on your property in our office. You can sign up, you sign up your name or your business name, whatever your property's under, and it'll send you an alert if something's recorded. You can sign up for a text message, an email, or an automated phone call, so you don't have to have a computer or a cell phone. You can just have a landline and it can still alert you if something comes in. If people are interested, they can sign up on the Berry County website under the Register of Deeds page, or they can go to propertyfraudalert.com. They can also call our office or come into the office. We can sign you up. We're happy to help, and we're happy to answer any questions. Right now we have about 1,400 subscribers signed up for Berry County, so we'd like to increase that number. And I have some flyers. If anyone's interested, I can leave them on the table. Thank you.
That'd be awesome. Thank you, Emily. Additional public comment? Hearing none, we will move ahead with our agenda. Next up, Rachel France, County Assurance Agency for Eagle Material Management Planning. Good morning, Rachel.
So you should have received the agenda request, which details what the account, I think it's County Approval Agency. We kind of went back and forth on that. So the roles, if the Board of Commissioners chooses to take that on, you would be in charge of filing the notice of intent from Eagle for the material management plan, appointing the designated planning agency, appointing the planning committee, and then you'll also be responsible for all aspects of the material management plan, similar to how you are responsible for upholding the solid waste management plan. You'll be responsible for plan implementation and overseeing the creation and implementation of the designated planning agency's work program. So that would be the person who is writing the plan, putting it onto paper. And then also utilizing the grant funds, which I did clarify it's a non-competitive grant for the 60 plus 50 cents per capita. So I'm asking today that the Board of Commissioners accepts the role of the County Approval Agency and then eventually files the notice of intent to Eagle stating that with the documentation required.
Yeah, Rachel, will you give us a quick summary? Because it's been the solid waste oversight forever. Now it's moving into materials management based on the state and some of the requests they do. Can you give us the transition and what we're actually, kind of a high-level summary or overview of this? I know that might be...
Yeah, and I've been speaking with Eagle to try to clarify kind of how the Solid Waste Oversight Committee's role will play in this, and I haven't got a lot back from them. So it will be 2 separate committees. The Material Management Planning Committee will be responsible for writing the grant, deciding, well, the DPA writes the grant, but the planning committee tells the DPA what to put in the grant. They decide the priorities and all of that. The Solid Waste Oversight Committee is going to be covering the solid waste management plan for the 3 years while the material management plan is being written. After which, I'm not sure what will come of that, but at our last meeting, we discussed keeping the Solid Waste Oversight Committee in place, at least during the material management process. So there will be 2 separate committees, the Material Management Planning Committee to write the grant and the Solid Waste Oversight Committee to continue business as usual with the household hazardous waste event, deer pickup, things of that nature.
A lot of the people who are on solid waste will continue to serve as materials management, or there'll be a blending in those 2 committees?
Yes, so some of the people that are on the Solid Waste Oversight Committee will be eligible to go on the Material Management Planning Committee, but there are some positions on the new committee that people on the Solid Waste Committee cannot fill.
Is this renaming some things when you talk about the county approval agency? It really makes us the point guard, which we still are, under solid waste to do things. We're just using different terms to kind of describe some of the same things.
Yes, so the Part 115 updates did a lot of name changes. There was a lot of different, like solid waste to materials and things of that nature, just to give an emphasis on reducing landfilling. So they changed a lot of language in those laws.
Okay.
And that is one.
Commissioner Getty, would you like to give us any insight as far as your involvement with solid waste oversight at this point?
I think Rachel's done a nice job. I think it will, we'll continue just to do business as usual. And then as the materials management plan is written and adopted, there may be that transition, and exactly what those details are yet to be determined. But I think it'll be a relatively seamless transition to, over the next 3 years.
3-year process. Commissioner Hatfield?
A new set of bureaucrats just trying to put their own stamp on a process that's been in place for some time. This will add some, I hope, resources to it, but I think it's a reasonable request. We just reaffirm what our role is, and we'll do our best to make sure that we utilize the volunteers that are already serving on solid waste as much as possible.
Yeah, questions from commissioners for Rachel? Okay. Serving on the Solid Waste Oversight Committee, Rachel's been a great asset to that committee as far as leading them forward and helping us out with some of these things, especially when you get into some of the complicated language and some of the hoops we have to jump through with these new named organizations and things they want us to do. So I appreciate your leadership and your guidance in this. A 3-year transition seems a little bit on the far side, but by the same token, trying to get information from the state right now on anything, elections, this has been next to impossible. So we appreciate that. So if there are no further questions, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval to accept the role of the County Approval Agency, CAA, for Materials Management Planning, MMP.
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Getty, support by Hatfield, to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval to accept the role of the County Approval Agency for Materials Management Planning. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Rachel. Next on our agenda, Courtney Zinni. Been looking forward to this.
Me too. Morning.
Good morning.
So I have Kurt Penny with me here today. He's a representative of Eckert Rudell LLC. We also have some COA board members in the audience and Rebecca DeHaan from Thornapple Manor, Harvest Point. So if you have any questions, I think you have a wide range of people to ask. So before we get to the actual request, I do want to take a couple of minutes to kind of update you on where the project stands as a whole. So as you know, we finalized the conceptual plan last October for a 16,500 square foot facility to be located on the county-owned property on the corner of McEwen Road and M79. In December, the Board of Commissioners did place $3 million into a COA construction fund. And then the COA has an existing building fund that has been in existence for some years with a balance of just around $450,000. So the professional services for that conceptual plan were paid for out of that COA building fund. So that first round was paid for out of that fund. So since that time, we've established a capital campaign advisory group. We've begun what's often referred to as the silent phase of fundraising, so the behind-the-scenes fundraising that happens. A special project fund was opened at the Berry Community Foundation, and we've begun conversations with local philanthropy and corporate sponsors. So while we're not quite ready to announce what those dollars that we have committed are yet, the COA board is confident, based on the number that we have, to proceed with the next phase of planning. So our goal is that the next phase of planning happens in conjunction with the continuing fundraising. So your packet included the standard form of agreement between the county and Eckert Riddell, and you can see the list of services that will be provided under this agreement beginning on page 10. I can recap those for you, or if everyone's read it, but basically site planning, evaluation, the engineering, construction, landscape design, interior design. Compensation for the services detailed above will be $354,920, and that's on page 22 of the agreement. The COA board has approved using the COA building fund to pay this expense and requested the county enter into the contract with Eckert Riddell as detailed in this agreement. I do want to make one note, is that this is just for the COA portion of the facility. So we have separated the project into two pieces because of the funding streams being different. So the connector piece, the 3,500 plus square feet, falls under Thornapple Manor, Harvest Point. Our facility is the 16,500 square feet. So this agreement refers to that piece of the facility. Questions?
Commissioner Carlton, you serve on that board. Would you like to add any insight to that?
No, Courtney's done a great job. I've really been impressed with the way the board, Courtney, and all those involved are moving forward. It's really impressive.
Thank you. Additional questions from commissioners?
Morning, Courtney.
Morning, Bob.
With the millage renewal coming up for the COA, is your board working on the fact that everything is distinct, that that's a renewal just for the COA, and that the new building is going to be raising the money outside of taxpayer money?
That will
I think
continue,
that's a
yeah.
major point that we need to emphasize.
That will continue to be our message as we go forward. So good news, bad news is that they're both kind of happening at the same time. So it can look a little muddy, but we do we will build the building with private donations and what the county has put towards the building, and our millage remains for the operating millage. As we get closer to that being on the ballot in August, we'll be sharing all the data, why our operating millage is so important and what that supports. And we have continued to have those conversations that it has to be two clear projects that we're working on. So.
And there again, in a year, a lot has been accomplished, and I know Commissioner Getty and Hatfield and I have been very blessed to be on that steering committee, and I know all the rest of the commissioners are very much behind this, so thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Additional questions, Commissioner Campbell?
I don't have any, but I sure am happy that they're getting me a nice place ready over there.
There still may be naming rights available if you'd like, so you can contribute. So.
Oh, there is, so if anyone wants to talk about that, I'm happy to have that conversation.
Commissioner Hatfield.
No, I have no questions. Also serving on the steering committee, I can say that I've been extraordinarily pleased at the cooperative spirit that we're seeing between COA and Harvest Point, and commend Becky and Courtney for all the work that they've done. It's moved along, I think, as smoothly as should be expected on a project of this scope. So.
Commissioner Smelker?
I think I know the answer to this, but has your company worked at Berry County before?
Yeah, so we've previously done pretty much all the work out at Thornapple, and we did the Harvest Point project. So it's we have a good history out there, know the site very well, we know the utilities, so I feel like it's a great fit for our company.
Thank you.
Awesome. Commissioner Getty?
I think everything's been said, but again, just so impressed with the work your board has done. And we say collaboration a lot, and it's not easy sometimes, working with that many people, and you've just done, both you and Becky have done a great job to build a facility that's going to serve really the next generation.
Additional questions, Commissioner Colton?
No.
Okay.
I have one more question, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Regarding, what's your name, sir? I'm sorry.
Kurt Penny.
Okay, morning, Kurt. So have you done power studies and everything, and do you think there's adequate amount that's going to be able to already in place?
Yeah, so when
We
we...
talked about that a lot, like with the building committee and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, so when we designed Harvest Point, we took into account that the site is going to develop over time, so there was previous studies done on the water and sewer, some of those connections. We planned for the power usage on the site, so I think we're well prepared to develop that site further in the future, not only this project, but future projects.
Yeah, good, thank you.
Kurt, is there a timeline for your part of this as far as the development, the layout, the building, all the inside? Is this a 6-month, 3-month, is this a year?
For our portion, we're probably 16 to 20 weeks. So as soon as we get approval, we'll get some of the geotech and survey going, and then we'll really hit the ground running with design. So if we can keep moving, we think we're in that range of, probably about 20 weeks of design.
Okay, awesome. And Courtney, I appreciate you coming before the board with this, and certainly the communication's been fantastic. I'm encouraged by the fact that we're moving into this phase, because when we went from 10,000 square feet to 16,000 square feet and the cost associated with that, it was like, woo, we've got some work to do here. But I think from what you're telling us when we're moving ahead with this, that good things are being done, that you've had good communication within the community, and we're moving ahead with this. So this is a definite win for all of Berry County to see the campus that's being developed out there, so.
Not surprising isn't the right word, but it's hard to raise money for a building. Like, I can tout our services day after day, but I am always blown away by the support of Berry County, and so I am super happy with the support behind this project, and I think at the end that we'll all see that it really took the community to build it, and so it's really going to be a project the whole community can be proud of. So I'm super
Awesome.
excited about that.
Well, this board would appreciate your continued updates on the project as it goes through in the planning and design phase especially. We'll look forward to a full report after that when it's done. So great job for both of you. Welcome back, Kurt.
Thank you.
Appreciate you having on the staff and working with us again on this. So thank you. So with that information, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Berry County Board of Commissioners approval to adopt the standard form of agreement between Eckert Wardell LLC and Berry County for construction of a new 16,500 square foot Berry County Commission on Aging facility.
So moved.
Motion by Hatfield, support by Colton.
Colton.
Okay. Motion by Hatfield, support by Colton, to recommend to the Berry County Board of Commissioners approval to adopt standard form of agreement between Eckert Wardell LLC and Berry County for construction of a new 16,500 square foot Berry County Commission on Aging facility. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you.
Michael Brown.
Good morning.
Morning.
I've got the last item of the morning, and should be a fairly brief one. And this is a request to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of the attached amended MERS Healthcare Savings Program Participation Agreement and Contribution Addendum for the Berry County Charlton Park employees effective March 1 of 2024. So if you'll recall, we closed out our OPEB, our other post-employment benefits, which for all intensive purposes was retiree health care. We had provided retiree health care from age 60 to 65. We did not provide anything post-Medicare. And we did have some instances, although that is not the case here, if a bargaining group had an early retirement, we would provide it a little bit earlier. It was significantly limited, if you may, to single subscriber or a stipend. So I only bring that up to just as sort of background. If you'll also remember, we had had our OPEB fully funded. So in fact, we have for years had a report that we have a net asset in our OPEB liability as instead of a liability. A few years ago, we elected to close out that OPEB, and so that it was more manageable and predictable over time. And by doing that, we calculated the liability of each individual employee that was in the plan. We negotiated with the bargaining groups and deposited that amount into an individual health care savings program through the Municipal Employees Retirement System. That is then there for those employees it's invested, it will grow over time, and then it's available for them to use, if you may, as a 401k or a defined contribution style healthcare savings program at the time that they sever employment or retire. In this case, we then did one other thing, that for all actives as well as new employees, we agreed to contribute on a monthly basis. It's $30 a month or 30 a pay? 30 a month. Thank you, Luella. $30 per month into this healthcare savings plan for each employee over the life of their career, which again will be invested, grow, and available for them. All of that to get to the point that Charlton Park is our last program that we needed to get the participation agreements in place for, and that's what's in front of you now. Is Charlton Park Board, is my understanding, approved this and have forwarded on to you to close out their OPEB and enter them into our healthcare savings program.
Awesome. Questions from commissioners?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Colton.
Thank you. So I'm having trouble understanding this. So HSA, is usually something that, I see this in my office and people have this money on their credit card. But then you're saying, well, it's in the form of a 401k, which is not a very easily accessible thing. How does that work?
Yeah, so it isn't a 401k. It's what's called a healthcare savings program. So your HSA is generally connected to healthcare savings account, which is connected with a high deductible healthcare plan, and allows employees to put away pre-tax dollars to use for healthcare, but it's generally associated with active healthcare. So while you're employed and connected with to pay deductibles or co-pays associated with your high deductible healthcare plan. In this case, these are monies that are available and eligible for retirement. Now, there is ability to access them earlier if you leave employment, but it's, for all intents and purposes, without getting into some of the nuances of it, it's intended that employees, the employer will put money, first this deposit that we bought out, we calculated what our liability would be when you retire, and pulled that out of our
our asset that we had, our OPEB asset, and deposited that into the healthcare savings plan for each individual. So instead of that money being in the trust fund in the name of Berry County, a benefit to the employee now is that that money is in an account in their name. It's portable. So if somebody leaves our employment and doesn't make it to retirement, under our old plan, they would have received nothing. They had to stay with us and retire with us to receive any benefit under our retiree health program. While we don't want to encourage and make it easier for folks to leave, of course, that is the nature of today. Folks want that portability, that, for lack of a better term, ownership. So now that money, instead of it being in our name, and the only way you can access it as an employee is if you stay in a career and retire, it's now in the employee's name and portable. So if they stay a career, it will be there and it will grow and available for them to use for retiree health care. If they leave and go somewhere else, they can take that with them and use it at some date when they need retiree health care. These funds are not accessible, unlike your HSA, which would be accessible immediately during the year for current medical and health care. These are intended to be accessed when you retire at some point. And I apologize, I just don't know the earliest. Well, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you know, unlike a 457 is 59 and a half, unless you retire in the year that you turn 55 and a half, you can then access them earlier without a penalty. I don't know that granularity, I apologize, with regard to these funds, but for all intents and purposes, these are not intended and or available immediately, unlike your healthcare savings account, which is for immediate healthcare. This is a healthcare savings program account, which is for retirement.
Okay, that clears that up. So, at that early point, it's portable but not accessible, but later when you have that HSA, it's accessible.
Correct.
But I didn't understand, okay, you got this period of time between age 60 and 65, and you were saying something happens after 65.
So what I was just trying to set the table, if you may, is that our previous, I'm going to call it a defined benefit style retiree health care. What we have replaced with now this healthcare savings program. What we had previously was a defined benefit style where, again, all the funds that were there were in the trust owned by the county, and the only way you could access them was if you stayed and retired. You couldn't access them until you were 60. You had to stay right up till the point you were 60, and we only provided health care coverage between 60 and 65, unlike, and it's not so common to hear the discussion any longer, but it wasn't so long ago that we were hearing about folks that had really high, communities that had really high OPEB liabilities because they were on the hook for, or had guaranteed lifetime benefits to retirees and their spouses, and we didn't have that. Ours never was that rich. It was always limited to age 60 to 65. So that's all I was trying to explain there, was, again, set the table on what we had compared to now. So for somebody that again, I'm not trying, and this isn't the venue to say, is it a better or worse? It's different. The benefit to the employee now is that it's portable, and that if somebody chooses to work, under our old plan, if somebody worked until they were 65, which isn't that uncommon, they got nothing. They worked through the eligibility period for their retiree health insurance, and they got active health insurance, but once they retired, they didn't get anything. Our trust benefited from it because there was no cost against it.
But now they would maintain that HSA?
Now they would maintain that, it's called HCSP account, yep, and that would actually continue to grow while they're working, 65, 66, whatever, and when they then leave, that's their account to take with them. That's why I kind of called it a 401K. It's not, but that concept that you now own the bucket and you take it with you as opposed to the county owning it in a trust and you having to access it under certain rules.
Definite improvement.
So.
Additional questions?
I guess I have one. Now, heaven forbid, say something happens to an employee, then this account is in their name, then that goes to their heirs, right?
They're beneficiaries, yes. So just like a 401K or a 457 or you would define a beneficiary, and yes, that would go to their beneficiary.
Okay. Hearing no further questions, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of the attached MERS Healthcare Savings Program Participation Agreement and Contribution Addendum for the Berry County Charlton Park employees effective 3/1/24.
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Smelker, support by Getty, to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of the attached amended MERS Healthcare Savings Program Participation Agreement and Contributions Addendum for the Berry County Charlton Park employees effective 3/21/24. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Limited public comment. At this time, any member of the public wishing to address the board may do so for up to 3 minutes.
Frank Biella from the Solid Waste Oversight Committee. I am
Would you
also
pull your microphone over to you? Thank you.
Testing. Okay, from the Solid Waste Oversight Committee, I'd like to thank a couple people, especially Commissioner Getty and Commissioner Hatfield for serving on the committee, just doing excellent work and great attendance, and appreciate that. As you all know, Rachel France just does a superb job, and we're just so happy to have her and your authorization for that. I would just wanted to make a couple summary comments, overview comments, that initially in the early 90s, there was a planning committee that was mandated of the kind of requirements and the people that are on there. So we formed one of those here in Berry County. Then within that, they create a plan, and the plan dictates the oversight committee. So the oversight committee is unique to us, and we control that. The planning committee is kind of mandated to us, same as occurring now. So the new planning committee will be formed and at some point dissolved, I would assume, and it will create its own unique oversight committee. So the oversight committee, as we now know it, will kind of be dissolved with this new plan since it's a part of the old plan. Just wanted to point that out. So just changes, and at least as I understand that, and it's all subject to change, of course, because this has been in legislation for a number of years, and finally it's worked its way out. And then I would just like to remind all the people that we have a couple of household hazardous events this year. We have one on May 18th at the Expo Center and September 7th, and we would encourage all you to participate in that. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Additional public comment?
Just really quickly on that note, we will have an additional electronics collection June 1st at Delton Kellogg High School, and that is open to anyone and everyone. Electronics will be collected at all 3 events for no cost, with a $10 suggested donations for all TVs and monitors. Oh, and I'm Rachel France.
Thank you. And I approve this message. Additional public comment? Come on down.
Are you ordering lunch?
You have 30 seconds left. I'm kidding.
Well, mostly I just thought your meeting was too short, it needed to be longer. Sharon Zabrowski, Carlton Township. I received an email from Charlton Park asking me to keep some dates open this summer for their events. Well, the first event is the Tri-River Museum Tour, which I'm sure you're going to hear more about as it gets closer. The next event is the Father's Day Car Show. Well, wait a minute. What happened to Charlton Park Day? It's the day to show off our great park and kick off the event season. It's a big thank you to everyone in the county for supporting Charlton Park. Now, the former Charlton Park Board and park staff put a lot of time and effort into contacting businesses and organizations to help fund Charlton Park Day. The former Charlton Park Board, Charlton Park staff, and volunteers rolled up their sleeves and worked hard to make it a great day. Now, I've heard the excuses: COVID, businesses are struggling, people don't want to get into large groups again. Well, businesses are picking up and people are gathering in large groups. The excuses don't fly. The former Charlton Park Board was a working board who weren't afraid to get their hands dirty and do what should be done. They worked hard to pull the county together and show off what they felt was a great park. But I guess the Parks and Recs Commission feels differently. So thanks for snubbing those who support Charlton Park.
Thank you. Additional public comment? Hearing none, we will move ahead with commissioner comments. Commissioner Tennyson.
I don't have much other than like to talk a little bit about that solar forum we had the other night. I was glad we did it. I hope the public got something out of it. And I hope that we got some information out of it too, as far as what we can start maybe writing some ordinance on the 200 to 400 acre stuff, the less than 50 megawatt, and maybe move forward on an ordinance for the whole thing. So I think the faster we get going on that, the better off we are, as far as get a cooperation with, just writing an ordinance that would be nice setbacks and stuff like that. So anyway, move on.
Thank you. Commissioner Campbell?
Thanks for stealing that from me, Commissioner. I too wanted to talk on that. It was a good public event over there. I thought it was taken real well. I learned many things, so I assume lots of other people did also. Heard lots of comments. One thing that's, I noticed that when this legislation passed, that everybody was wondering what was going on and everything. We kind of tapped the brakes on our ordinance, and I think it's time to untap the brakes and move ahead as quickly as possible, not taking into consideration what the state has said is the ordinance, is the way we have to follow. It doesn't matter what we put in there. It does matter, because although if we run into a company that, or a private company that doesn't want to follow our guidelines, yes, they can go to the state. But it also says that if we have guidelines there that are stronger than the state's language, and we have a company that I feel we have right now, talking with Gary many times, they're more than willing to cross that line and go farther than they really need to, than they legally have to. So I'm just saying we need to move on this a little quicker. I'm disappointed that being in the area that is first being traumatized by this event, and trying to find a way out, that we haven't made a way for them, mainly Johnstown Township, who I represent. They They're an extremely well-organized board. They have many good thoughts. They do a beautiful job down there. But the only time that they're going to get to have input on this is a public meeting at the end of the trail after basically everything's established. And I truly feel that a public meeting at the end of the trail is no more than just a legality that has to take place and really doesn't have much bearing on the actual outcome of that ordinance. So I'd certainly hope that maybe we can suggest or something to our zoning department that maybe a good time to bring some of those people in would be before the horse is out of the barn and not afterwards. So that's what I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Hatfield.
I just want to thank Commissioner Campbell for those thoughts. Being this group's representative on the Planning Commission, I can only say that, I was pleased to hear your comments. The comments that were made at the meeting last week certainly were will be taken into consideration, and I share your hope that the process that we put in place will be meaningful to everybody that's going to be impacted. So,
Commissioner Smelker.
I was also impressed with our meeting we had the other night, and from that, I would like to move on with the ordinances, and I'd also would like to contact MAC, see what other counties are doing, and talk to some like counties of ours, Ionia, Shiawassee, see what they got going. And I would like to possibly get a name of a constitutional lawyer and see an opinion from them.
Thank you. Commissioner Getty.
I don't have anything.
Commissioner Colton.
Last night, we had a super meeting of the Nashua Community Garden. Catherine was there, and the group is growing, and, this whole winter, it's kind of just been sitting there under a big tarp, a set of tarps. Composting, we're doing a natural composting where we've laid cardboard and leaves over a large area and then covered it with a tarp, and things are happening under there right now, I suppose. But now we're talking about we got to purchase soil, we got to build the raised bed boxes, fencing around it. We're getting more and more people at every meeting, and can't wait till we get to that point, end of May or so, where we put seeds in the ground.
Raised bed boxes are huge for us in the older sector who do not want to bend over and pick and plant. So we have some, and they're awesome. So thank you. Thank you, Director Lehman, for your time today and sharing that information with us. It's good to know that we're in such great hands and things are moving forward and our technology is there and there's a plan going forward with our towers and our communication. So thank you for sharing that information with us, and hopefully you'll get to see some of us tonight at the open house. To our current solid waste board and our commission members, thank you. That board is comprised of a lot of volunteers from all different areas of the county. As many of you know, recycling right now is kind of at a lull because there's not a financial benefit for doing it, but there is still a need in the community for it. And Rachel has been a great resource to try to create some collaboration throughout the county and how we connect townships and resources together to keep something moving in that direction, even when it's kind of at a low right now. So thank you to the Solid Waste Board for your participation and showing up today. For our friends at COA, remarkable. We talked about this at the beginning when this project got started, that you didn't know what you were getting into, because when you're building a building from scratch, it's a lot of energy and a lot of effort and a lot of time and a lot of resources. And I appreciate the volunteers on the COA board who are putting in that time, effort, and energy to make that a reality. I'm impressed at the pace because I was concerned at the expansion that we may be looking at a longer timeline than this, but things are progressing. So really appreciate the support from the community and the engagement from the COA board to continue to move this forward, and just know that this board is here to support you. That has been quite a process. So very proud of you guys and what you're doing. So, and similar thoughts on the workshop. I don't know, it's probably somewhere between 150 and 175 people from the community. At the end of that, getting to hear the public comment and getting to hear the questions was fantastic, because it really gave us insight to what a lot of different people are thinking of, especially with Johnstown Township. And I just want to let you know, Bruce, that I don't think Johnstown Township is going to be at the end of the process. I'd really like them to be at the forefront of the process, because this is a major project. So it's important that I think that we get together with that township board and with some other parties involved in it to see how we want to make a blueprint for the county going forward that protects our farmland, that protects the interests of the residents that are in that area. And I don't care if it's stricter than what the state has. I think that we need to look out for our own best interests and our people. And for us to put a ordinance together and hand it to Johnstown Township would be a violation of trust from this board to our community. I think we need to work with Johnstown Township, but also involve the rest of the townships involved as well as we make our mark on this, because this is not a small issue. It's not going away. It's not one project. I think many of them will be smaller than this that we will have the ability to control. But Johnstown needs to be at the forefront of the conversation, not at the back door. So we're not going to hand them something. I want their agreement or their input on this every step of the way. They're an important partner in this. This is a big project. We know Consumers has worked hard with them as well to set this up. But like I said, it's not just Johnstown Township, but they are the start. So if we do this right at the beginning, working with them as a partner in this, I think it'll make a nice blueprint for the rest of the county moving forward. So that's my opinion. I think this board supports that opinion, that we are in no way going to leave them out, that we're going to embrace their thoughts and ideas moving forward, and hopefully we can get to that in pretty short order. So, but appreciate your participation. Nice to see all your smiling faces on a 50-degree day in February. I will point out, I still own snowmobiles, and I'm very sad. So, but it is what it is. So it's safer for our community.